Good evening, everyone. You are in the spotlight with Brian Gardner for this Tuesday, May the 1st, 2018. Good to have you all here for our first and only show of this week. You might notice we're in a little bit of a different setting. I mean, this is where I kind of started. Well, I didn't start doing it, but we've done it from the show from up here before. This is another room in my house, and just was a little bit easier to. Sorry about the camera moving here. A little bit easier to do it up here tonight, so that's what I'm going to do. Although some people I've been talking to some people off the air. I've been talking to some people off the air today, and I'm pretty exhausted. I haven't gotten sleep like the last 3 nights, which is nothing new for me, folks. Anybody that's known me knows I'm a night owl. I don't mind not getting sleep. I am exhausted. It's kind of every so often after a few days it hits you, and then you're like, oh, and it's hitting me today. So I'm pretty exhausted. So I think there's gonna be some people. There's gonna be some people that are joking around like, "Oh, he's doing it from upstairs in his room because he wants to fall asleep during the show comfortably." No, that's not it. I legitimately, just felt like it was a better idea to do the show up here tonight, and that's why we're doing it up here. Aesthetically, it actually is better. It's brighter, and it's it tends to be a little bit more, better quality. So it's not the worst thing in the world, but whatever. Anyway, just wanted to acknowledge. Wow, I just lost that whole thing. That's really fun. Yeah. So yeah, that happened. Interesting. Anyway, yeah. So not sure what I just did with that, but all right. So like I said, this is our first and only show of the week. So we continue our one show a week schedule, which we will do throughout May. So continue to bear with us on that as we kind of work. This is really probably what it's going to be like for the summer. For those of you wondering, it's going to be easier to do things that way for right now. So if you expect us to expand our schedule, don't, because we won't. Not yet anyway. We'll probably just start back up in the fall. So and kind of go from there. It's just a lot easier that way this year. So but yeah. So hey, sometimes you gotta do that. Sometimes you just gotta go with the flow. That's kind of what we're doing. So but yeah. So let's get going as always. I want to remind you all the ways which you can interact and contribute to our show. Have your voice heard by emailing us at itspotlight411@gmail.com. You can also follow us and tweet us at itspotlight411. Remember to use the hashtag itspotlight411 for anything you tweet regarding our show. And of course, you can find us on Facebook. Just search for In the Spotlight 411 on Facebook, and then make sure that you like our fan page once you're on it or once you find it. Again, our first and only show of the week. We got a lot to do today. Hopefully we can get through it. Sorry, the camera's moving again. I'm just trying to get this light this at a good angle, but it's not really working, so I apologize. But yeah, we got a lot to do tonight. So we'll start off in entertainment. We got the box office beat. We got the TV picks of the week. We'll go through that quickly because all the other stuff is going to take a little bit more time. We're going to preview WWE's Backlash pay-per-view. We're going to talk about the greatest Royal Rumble. I didn't put that in the show, but we will talk about everything that's gone on in wrestling. We've seen WWE over the last week. We'll talk about it here tonight on the program. We got NBA playoffs. We got a lot to talk about there. And we have an MLB preview, which, again, like we've done with so many previews, like the summer movie preview last week, which is on the entertainment side, I know, but it's kind of the same thing. But in any sports thing that we've done this year, or any over the last few years, we don't do like a long drawn out, thing anymore with these previews. We just kind of do a segment and we kind of, generally go over things and that's it. And that's what we'll do here tonight. It won't be some long drawn out thing. It'll just be like a segment. So we'll do that tonight as well and get in depth on some baseball here tonight on the program. So you got all that to look forward to here tonight. Lots to do. So let's get down to it. As I wait for my co-host, I'm just going to move, get going so that we don't waste any time. Again, this is our first and only show of the week. Again, we'll continue this one show a week schedule through May and into the summer. So for those wondering, that's kind of addressing that point so that you all don't have to keep wondering anymore. So, all right, so let's get right down to it. Like I said, we'll start off in entertainment and kind of go from there. So we'll start off with the box office beat, and we said that the potential for a record-breaking weekend was there. I think many of us just didn't want to go too far in predicting it. We knew it could potentially be close. Look, let me be honest here. The only thing that was holding me back was the fact that it was a week that wasn't a holiday week. It was a non-traditional. Remember, we've seen records broken in the first week of May. Avengers did it in 2012. So this is not, you know, um, this isn't something. This isn't something new. I mean, it's not something new. Um, to see this happen this time of year, and remember, it's only a week earlier that Infinity War is opening. So it's not like, this that some different time of year, but still, the fact that it was a week earlier. And look, one of the things that I think fell into a lot of things, um, a lot of people talk about this movie was, oh well, with it being a week earlier. Because remember, one of the things about the first week of May, even though college is still in session, that first Friday, okay, first Friday of May is for many the last day of regular classes. Other than outside of that, it's his finals and exams, and so colleges essentially are pretty much done. So that sometimes helps the box office a little bit. So there was a lot of people that wondered if by pushing into the last week of April that you hurt it a little bit. So that factored into things a little bit in regards to this. Um, so yeah, I mean, um, it was one of those things where I think a lot of people, I think that factored into things. I think that people, that played a role. And I think that there was also people that thought, you know what, there is some superhero fatigue, or, maybe this movie is too long. And because of that, you know, um, this movie's too long, and the running time will hurt it, which I always thought was a funny thing, because Star Wars did what it did, and Titanic, all of them were long movies. Okay, um, so I don't really subscribe to that thinking. But anyway, so there's that, and then it's a dark. Everybody's been talking about how it's a darker movie, and how families with kids are not going to like taking their kids to see it. It's going to turn some families off. That kind of thing. That's kind of all the things you heard, and how it could potentially hurt it. Well, as we sit here on Tuesday, May 1st, 5 days into this movie's run, it's doing huge amounts of business. It broke the opening weekend record set by Star Wars a couple years ago. I mean, again, we said the potential was there for a record-breaking weekend, and it did it. It was a record-breaking weekend, and Marvel has a lot to celebrate. When they broke the record in 2012, I think many thought that record would stand until probably Star Wars, but then Jurassic World shocked everybody and broke that record, and Star Wars broke that record a few years later. And then everybody kind of thought, you know what, with this, the Marvel movies might not be able to pull it off because superhero fatigue. Well, superhero fatigue is not a thing. Okay, you've seen what Black Panther did earlier this year, and now you've seen what Infinity War has done. There's no such thing as superhero fatigue. There's just not. It's just not. So forget about that. So you get the record breaker, $257.6 million. It shattered the record. I think it was like, what, 248? Shattered the record. And yesterday had a $25 million Monday. The film, after 5 days of release, this is the most impressive thing, because you can talk a lot about the opening weekend domestic records. That is a domestic record. It made $630 million worldwide. $630 million worldwide. It's up to $725.5 million. 5 days to yesterday, 4 days into its run. That's amazing. It's amazing. It's going to cross $1 billion before this week is up. And it hasn't even opened in China yet, which is expected to do huge numbers in China. So are we seeing a movie that could finally do some things to the top of the all-time records list? Now, again, you look at the all-time record list. We talked about that over the years. We had a couple of close calls with that. Domestically, Star Wars The Force Awakens is the top spot there, 936.6 million. That one is attainable. But the one that everybody wants to know is, when would somebody finally challenge Avatar? Would somebody challenge Avatar? Star Wars The Force Awakens was one that, when it started, a lot of people thought it could. But it banked up at $2 billion. Is $2 billion in the discussion? I think the thing that we're going to be looking at here when it comes to Infinity War is how it does in its second weekend. Remember, it essentially has 3 weekends to itself about any true competition. If it holds up well this weekend, and what is well? Well, it made 258 million. So obviously it's going to drop off significantly. It ain't going to make 200 million again this weekend. But you're looking for it to stay above 100 million. And how far above 100 million it stays is going to determine whether it can break over 2 billion or not. A billion is a given. We know that, okay? How far over a billion it gets, it's gonna get close to 2 billion based on the way it's doing. I mean, even if it falls off the map this weekend, it's gonna get close to that, just by what it's doing overseas. I would say the other thing too is, in addition to how it does this weekend, how it does in China, because there's an expectation it's gonna do well in China. That's not a thing, but how well it does in China. There's people saying that it's gonna break all-time records in China. If it does that, then you add that in $200, $300, $400 million, whatever it's going to end up being there. Okay, you add that on, you're already over. With everything else it's going to do, that's going to definitely cross over $2 billion. So and here's the thing: if it gets over if it clears 2 billion by a lot, it's going to be Titanic. Titanic's 2.1 billion. Once you hit 2 billion, you're going to get close to Titanic. Star Wars got close, just petered out too much at the end. So this movie legitimately has a chance to at least be second in all-time worldwide gross. Can it get to that $2.7 billion? I don't know. It's going to be tough. Because once you get to that third weekend of May, Deadpool comes out, and it's going to lose a lot of theaters. So I guess, people would ask me, well, what do you think it has to be at when Deadpool comes out on the 18th? Well, let's see. It's at 725 right now. We don't know what the numbers are today, but 25 million yesterday. So let's assume it stays around 20, maybe 18 to 20. That gets it around 745. It's going to get over 800 million today. 900. So it'll be about $1 billion probably by Thursday. So if it does 100 million, it could be about it could be around a little under $1.5 billion by Monday. And that's only going to its second full week of release. If it can be at around, if it's at 2 billion by the time Deadpool comes out, and before somebody says that's impossible, it's not impossible. The way this movie is churning right now, it is not impossible. Especially if the numbers in China end up being what people think they could be. If it's at 2 billion when Deadpool comes out, it has a conceivable shot. Because it ain't going to just fall off the map because of Deadpool. Because here's the thing. The next weekend, you got Memorial Day weekend. Yes, I know that Solo comes out. But it's still going to get enough. There are going to be some people that maybe stayed away from the theater that are going to come out. It's going to get a boost for Memorial Day. Not a lot, but it'll get a boost. It'll help it out. So, if it gets above 2 billion, yeah, it has a good shot. It does. Plus, they could always pull, the whole re-release trick later in the summer and say we have extended footage. Maybe if they have, I know the Russo brothers are not known for this, but if they have some cut scenes or deleted scenes, they can always throw a couple out there and re-release it later in the summer when there's no competition and make a little bit more bank. They can do that too. I don't know if they would do that, but they did that with Avengers. They could. But we'll see. If it's close, they might try. But we'll see. Either way, what we're seeing is historic. It's amazing. Yeah, the potential was there. We all knew it was going to dominate and be the biggest movie of the weekend and probably the biggest movie of the summer, and it is. And, a lot of people, in addition to the movie being very good and the word of mouth, and even though there are some people out there that did think it was too dark and they didn't like, the cliffhanger and, they thought it wasn't good for their kids and everything. There are complaints out there. And, I think the concern last week was, will this be as derisive as The Last Jedi was, which hurt it going forward after its first weekend? Well, clearly it's not, because you saw the numbers over the weekend. It gained. Thursday night previews were I think, 39 million. And then it did, I think, then it has Friday. But it did better Saturday and Sunday than it did Friday in terms of its pure daily total. So, yeah, it's word of mouth is carrying this movie. any negativity is purely clearly limited and it's not really impacting it too much. So yeah, it's doing just fine, and we'll see. Again, the storyline going forward here next couple weeks is going to be how well it holds. The better it holds, the more likely it is that it could actually challenge Avatar. And what does this mean for next year's Avengers, the fourth Avengers? Again, we can talk about that later down the road, but you know, if this movie can do what it's doing with some of the negativity it's experiencing, then that one could do even better. So yeah, Avengers: Infinity War #1 with 257.6 million. Again, we knew that would be #1 far and away. It's always funny to see the first week of summer and see how big the gap is between the big movie and then all the other movies that have been out. And this was the only major new release, mind you. But you got Avengers: Infinity War in first, 257.6 million, and the next movie is A Quiet Place, dropping from first to second of $11 million, a 47% drop off in its fourth week. Now, I'm going to point this out to y'all. That's not a bad hold versus Avengers. That's a pretty, especially in its fourth week, that's a good hold for A Quiet Place. Shows you how well that movie's been doing. Outside of that, yeah, in staying put in third, I feel pretty, 8.1 million. Rampage dropped from second to fourth, 7.2 million in its third week, which isn't too bad. Black Panther got a boost from Avengers of all things. Clearly, the double features helped. Only dropped 4% in its 11th week. Came in with 4.7 million, almost near $5 million, moving up from 8th to 5th, which is incredible in its 11th week. So good for them. That was quite the surprise, I think, for Marvel and Disney. I don't think they would have ever anticipated. I don't think they would have anticipated the movie getting that kind of boost in its 11th week. But again, double features help that. So yeah, so Avengers is the story, and it will continue to be the story here going forward, and we'll see how it does here as it goes into its second week and how well it holds. Again, the dailies are very important too, because remember, we're not in a holiday period. They moved it up to the last week of April. Now, will they do that again next year? Will other movies follow suit? I don't know. You know, it's why, remember when they first moved, started having movies open the first week of May and starting the summer movie season in early May. Spider-Man was the first one to do that. Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man was the first one to do that. People were like, oh, yeah, now everybody's going to do it. And they did. Well, now will you see people do this? I don't know. I mean, it's only 1 week. I don't know if it makes that much difference, but I don't know. I guess it depends. Fast and Furious has had April releases, and they've done very well. So maybe you're going to start to see this. We've seen things change enough where we see blockbusters all year round now, not just during the holidays and all that. So we'll see what happens. Now, again, Avengers has the spotlight for the next few weeks. There are other movies being released next week. 3 movies to be exact. None of them are opening over 2,000 theaters. The biggest release is Bad Samaritan, a horror thriller from Electric Entertainment, opening in 1,800 theaters, starring David Tennant. R-rated, won't factor into much. Maybe gets 3-4 million if it's lucky. Then you got Overboard, a romantic comedy from Pantheon, opening in 1,500 theaters, starring Anna Faris, Eva Longoria, PG-13. Again, if this one makes 3-4 million, I'll be shocked. And then Tully, a comedy from Focus Features, opening in 1,200 theaters, starring Charlize Theron and Mark Duplass, written by Diablo Cody and directed by Jason Reitman, R-rated. Another one that I don't expect to break 5 million. I don't think any one of these movies will break 5 million. If one of them does it, it'll be barely. So none of these movies are going to challenge. So Avengers is going to clearly be #1. How well does it do? I think it will stay above 100 million, but how far above 100 million does it stay is the key. I lowballed the estimate last week, much like a lot of people did. I'm going to do it again just because you just don't know, and I don't think anybody wants to go too far with their predictions. I'm going to say Avengers: Infinity War comes in first place this week of 120 million. It could be lower. It could be a little bit higher. I don't know if it'll be much higher. If it is, then it has a good chance. But yeah, I'm going to go up 120 million for Infinity War for this weekend. And then outside of that, I think you're going to see A Quiet Place stay put in second. I'll say about 7 million. It should drop off. I feel pretty maybe around 5.5, 6. Rampage around 5, and Rampage around 5 million. Everything else will be under 5 million. Black Panther already is. And again, I don't expect any of the new releases to do any better than 5 million. So I think that's how this week will play. It'll be about Avengers once again. And then again, next weekend, you do have a little bit more in the way of offerings. You have a Melissa McCarthy movie, and Life of the Party from Warner Brothers, and Breaking In, a throw from Universal. you might see better results with those two movies, but not enough to take out Infinity War. So Avengers are going to take the next 2 weeks. Just a matter of how much it makes. So we'll talk more about that along the way here, but that is a big storyline here going forward, how well this movie does and what it can potentially do all the time. We'll see what happens going forward here. And again, we'll see if more movies follow suit. If they have a summer blockbuster, will they start opening them in April, a week early in April? Will Avengers do the same thing next year? We'll see how that goes as we go forward here. So Mike is in the spotlight. I see he's on screen. I have been just talking here and trying to get this segment done. But Mike, how you doing?
I'm doing fine. I've just been waiting here for about 20 minutes, watching YouTube videos.
So
yeah.
Well, okay. What are the YouTube videos about Avengers?
About Avengers?
Yeah. No, I'm just trying to bring it back. I'm bringing it full circle. I was trying to.
No, I'm watching College Humor Originals.
Ah.
They have these funny ones about the Nicolas Cage's agent and Chris Brown's publicist.
Oh.
Where Nicolas Cage usually says yes to everything, including wonderful things called Space Ass, Schindler's Fist, and of course the sequel to that, Schindler's Pissed, among others. And Chris Brown, as his publicist, Chris Brown has anger issues, and he punches lots of things, including Eminem's cat, which he later punches into Eminem's daughter. He doesn't punch Eminem's daughter. He punches Eminem's cat into Eminem's daughter and breaks her nose. Rather funny, because the agent doesn't know how to get through to Chris Brown. So I highly recommend that you watch it. Oh, it didn't freeze because you froze on screen with the derpiest look on your face. So, yeah, I was enjoying myself while you were rambling about Avengers made $2.5 million. It is the biggest grossing opening weekend ever. It's going to make $2 billion. He is going to.
Hey.
Also,
you should be happy, Mike.
Hey, Brian, that helicopter pilot, man.
Yeah. Yes.
Brian, that the helicopter pilot died for.
Oh, Jesus.
Fun fact, that's an actual spoiler for Infinity War. Who's the helicopter pilot? I don't know. Or she wasn't given a name. I don't want to be offensive.
Oh, God. Hey, you should be happy because this movie, if it holds well this weekend, has a chance to unseat Avatar. So,
yeah, bring on Deadpool.
We all want to. Okay, bring on Deadpool, but Deadpool's not going to upset Avatar. So stop. We're
not talking about Avatar.
Oh yeah, but we don't you want
why
that?
Are you talking about Avatar?
Because it can break the record, and we all want it to break the record because everybody's sick and tired of looking at that movie at #1.
Well, they weren't sick and tired of watching that movie when it came out. I mean, I didn't want to be in the theater. Yeah, I was sick, and you dragged me to it.
Listen, I try to be impartial on the show. I mean, people know what we like and don't like at this point. I do try to be impartial, though. I'm like, okay, if you like it, you like it. But I think we talked about this over the years. That's one of those weird movies where at the time everybody was going crazy about it, and those that hated it had to defend themselves, like why they hated it. And then what? It wasn't even 2 years later that everybody's like, yeah, that movie sucked.
It did suck. It sucks hard.
And then everybody realized that it was just a bad movie disguised in an experience. And
Well, I enjoyed the first Avatar when it was called Fern Gully.
Yeah,
it was that was a great movie that traumatized a lot of people in my childhood.
Yes, Fern Gully was a great movie.
And it was a great movie, and it did traumatize me as a child at times. That shit was scary. But I digress.
Anyway, again, I'm sure. Do you have any thoughts, box office wise? Can we move on?
No, we can move on.
Okay.
Please, this is why
So
I'm here.
funny
To
you're
not talk
it's,
about
it's
stuff.
funny you're talking about Ferngully traumatizing kids when some parents are claiming that Avengers traumatized their kids, but you know.
Well, it's not. Well, I mean, it's a PG-13 movie.
Yeah. Look, I'm just gonna be frank here, okay, and then I'll move on because it just does annoy me a little bit. Here's the thing, folks. All right, if you saw any of the commercials and you saw any of the trailers, it was pretty obvious that this movie wasn't going to be like some inspirational, hopeful piece of cinema. Okay, this was supposed to be. It was going to be a experience that potentially might not be suitable for certain children that can't are sensitive to these things. Should have been smart about it. Then again, and since you brought up Deadpool, you'll remember a couple years ago when the first Deadpool came out and they explicitly said, do not take kids to see this movie. What did you see, Mike? Kids seeing
There were
that
a
movie.
lot. There were lots of kids in that theater. Yes.
So, not always the smartest decisions being made out there. But anyway,
Nope.
uh, box office report beat done. We'll talk more about Avengers in the next couple weeks, no doubt, as it continues to bring in the dough. So summer movie season off to a great start. So we'll move on from there. Now TV picks of the week. Mike, what you got?
Oh, good. Well, let's see here. What did I see this week? I watched the first 6.5 episodes of Marvel's Runaway on Hulu. Oh my God, what is that? Oh, good Lord.
I just put the
Oh
screen down.
Lord.
Relax.
Oh no. Don't ever do that again. That was terrifying.
I'm sorry.
Embarrass yourself,
I should.
God. And get a tan.
You're a jerk.
I mean, I don't
Oh
really
yeah,
have
that
much
was
of
my
a
leg. I
tan
didn't
on
even
my.
realize that was my leg there. I apologize. I am so sorry. I did not realize. That's horrible. I didn't realize my leg
That
was right
was
there.
horrible.
I
That
apologize.
that that offended many people on many levels. Anyways,
I'm sure it did. I'm sure it did.
anyways, as I was saying before, I was so rudely interrupted. I
Mm-hmm,
saw the first 6 episodes of Marvel's The Runaways.
mm-hmm.
That's on Hulu. It's a Hulu original. It is theoretically connected to the MCU. As I found out, there were a lot of differences from the comic, as expected. It's about a group of teens who find out that their parents are a part of this secret cult called Pride, headed up by Julian McMahon, and his second foray into a comic book movie, as many of you probably don't want to remember. Julian McMahon played the original Doctor Doom in the Jessica Alba, Michael Chiklis, Ian Gifford, and Chris Evans Fantastic Four movies. It had more personality than the Fantastic Four remake, but nobody wanted to remember that Doctor Doom. So Julian McMahon is back here as Julian. I don't know if that's his name, Julian McMahon, but or Lucian or whatever his fuck his name is. He's back here as the big bad. And then the kids who all discover that they have something that makes them special. One is an alien who may or may not be related to the big bad. One is a smart jock who can shoot things from his metal hands that he creates with his dad. And there's a lot of issues there. They're called the Fistigons. One has this like magic rod. One has legit super strength, even though she's like the youngest of the bunch and immediately needs a nap afterwards. And honestly, if you're throwing around a car, who doesn't need a nap afterwards? It's important. One has a psychic link with a raptor, and the leader Alex, who in the comic he significantly changed. Alex Wilder, he's just super smart and plans things really well. Also, he has a gun, so of course he's the most dangerous of the bunch. So we're not at the part where the runaways run away yet. Apparently, I'm told that happens at the end of the season, but they're solving the mystery behind Pride, why they sacrifice these people. But yeah, it's on Hulu. It's a Hulu original. Second season's supposed to come out sometime this year, and you're going to actually see them running away. So So yeah, so The Runaways actually it's not a bad show. It's not a bad show at all. It's kind of like a better written Teen Wolf set without the werewolves set in the MCU.
Huh.
Only everything's taking place in California, which it is. So yeah, it's actually really interesting. It's got some interesting people in it. James Marsters of all people makes a cameo in it. There's a character named Tina Minoru in it. No relation to the great Minoru Suzuki. Big up for Minoru Suzuki. Tina Minoru was technically a character with that name was technically in Doctor Strange. But I don't know. Jury's out if there's a relation between the characters. So yeah, Marvel's The Runaways. That's worth a watch. It's worth a watch. I've been watching a lot of Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Currently on season 4. Good stuff. Hope it survives till next year. Maybe I could watch it live. That'd be sweet. Brooklyn Nine-Nine's a great show. Other than that, I got to catch up on Black Lightning. Got to catch up on Deception, which is still a super good show. Got to catch up on Lethal Weapon, and I'm hearing really scary things about Lethal Weapon. So, thanks for telling me.
Yeah.
So
I would just say, the more I hear about it, the more it doesn't look hopeful. But yeah, that's all I'll
Lethal
say.
Weapon is a great show. Lethal Weapon's a great show. Enjoy it while it's there. So yeah, I got Lucifer. I have to catch up on still. I'm a few episodes behind on that. But yeah, other than that, I mean, I haven't been watching an awful lot. So
Same goes
so
for
I
me.
will recommend. I will recommend The Runaways, and I will recommend Brooklyn Nine-Nine. It's one of the funniest shows on television. Easily one of the funniest shows on television. It probably deserves more ratings than it's getting.
I'm going to say this. I'm glad you mentioned The Runaways. I think that was something that I always had planned to watch. I just never did. I kind of forgot it was there because, there's been so many Marvel shows like the Netflix stuff, which I finally caught up on. I mean, over the last like 6 months, I kind of got caught up in it a little bit. And then, I know I've been hearing a lot of things about Cloak and Dagger, which I think is starting in June. And I'm looking forward to that. That's interesting to me. So, yeah, I should check out The Runaways because that might be interesting. Yeah, I don't have a lot either because it's been very difficult with, between working 2 jobs and this time of year too, even though there's not a lot of sports, if you're watching NBA playoffs, if you're watching MLB games, or if you're, what I mean, if you're doing these things, they kind of take up your time. And I have so many things sitting on my DVR, and I'm trying to get to as many of them as possible. And there's some shows that I always get to every week. I'll get to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. every week. When Walking Dead's on, I'll get to that. In Gotham, when I was able to have access to Gotham, I get to that. All the DC shows I usually get to, and I've gotten to Black Lightning. I actually I finished off Black Lightning. I really enjoyed it. I like that show. It's kind of taken the place of Arrow for me as far as like being a competent superhero show with interesting relationships between characters and dynamics that are really, really good. So it's kind of taken that spot. I will say this: I think the Flash has gotten better over the last few months. I feel like they're coming out of their, I feel like it hasn't been as quick as Mike will tell you this, but when Arrow got, improved so quickly from season 4 to 5, and then all of a sudden season 5 was amazing, and then obviously it fell apart after that. But it wasn't that quick of a turnaround, but it's turning around. So I'm cautiously optimistic about the Flash. Arrow, not so much, but Black Lightning's been great, so I'd recommend that one big time. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was phenomenal last Friday. The twist with the Graviton twist was great. The stuff with they're setting up a Cousins. The thing that the twist with Daisy was really, really surprising. I didn't see that one coming either. And I just like the way they're using the cast in this arc and what they're doing with Yo-Yo, and then the alien invasion on Friday was really well done. Kevin Tantron directed. Whenever he directs, it's going to be a good episode for action, and it was. And I look forward to the last 3 episodes. And they did reference Infinity War. We'll see where they go with it. I don't anticipate anything big happening to the finale, but we'll see. They referenced it, so let's see what comes out of it. But yeah, it was a really good episode there. Let's see what else I have. let's see. There was no. I did watch Fear the Walking Dead. I enjoyed the first episode. The second one was okay. I don't like all the time jump. But it was okay. The third episode was good until the end. I know they had to write a certain. I'm not going to spoil. I know they had to write a certain character off, and I'm not even a big Fear the Walking Dead person. I'm just getting into it now because I feel like they're finally getting some direction. Um, I don't mind killing major characters. I really don't. Like I was one of the few last year when they killed Travis. That I thought, oh, that's, they needed something to kind of like shake the show, and I felt like it made the show better. Season 3 for Fear was really good. Um, and I just think, I know they had to write this person out because he wanted out, but I think the way that they did it was very anticlimactic. It didn't feel like it mattered. It felt just shock for the sake of shock. I felt like they could have done something more better narratively speaking with the character as far as his demise goes, but they didn't do that. So to me, it just seemed very abrupt and very not well thought out. Like it's almost like, even though they claim he gave them notice at the end of season 3, it came off like it's almost like he gave them notice like 2 weeks ago. You know what I mean? It didn't seem very well thought out. But I don't know. I've still, for the most part, been enjoying the show this season. So maybe, hopefully it'll get over that little hurdle there. But yeah, other than that, I haven't really watched anything. I've been watching NBA playoffs and MLB and wrestling and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's all I got for TV picks. So quick TV picks segment. Let's move on. Entertainment stuff, done. We got a lot else to do, a lot of other things to do. So let's move on. All right, we're gonna go to wrestling now. We're gonna finish with sports because I was going to do some NBA playoffs and we'll do the MLB preview. Wrestling. Look, Raw and SmackDown, not very eventful. Obviously, they're both building to Backlash on Sunday. We'll talk more about. We're going to preview the pay-per-view in a few moments quickly. And don't worry, we'll do an all wrestling show for Money in the Bank, and we'll do some questions and comments there again. We just didn't have the time. But the big thing we're going to talk about here, and again, Raw, not much going on. Yeah, the main event the great Finn Balor Seth Rollins match, which was phenomenal. The big main event with Braun Strowman, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn, Jinder Mahal, I think it was, yeah. Roman Reigns, great match that was. Had some more development with the women. I mean, it really was an uneventful show. They did the Roman Reigns. They addressed the Brock Lesnar angle, which we'll talk about in a moment, which was stupid. I don't know if I get it. I don't think it was a botch. I think they did it intentionally. But we'll talk about that in a moment. So not much on Raw, and from what I'm reading, not too much on SmackDown tonight. So not much going on as far as the regular weekly shows go. Although if you didn't,
biggest thing that happened on SmackDown was that Samoa Joe caught another awesome promo, and Shinsuke Nakamura, he got AJ Styles right again. He got him right in the dick.
Of course he did.
Right in the dick. Captain Cock Punch strikes again, and we are all celebrating that.
Yeah.
Godspeed, Captain Cock Punch. Godspeed.
He has. Is it just me, or does he look like he's having the time of his life for the first time in WWE?
Literally, his whole gimmick now is, I'm a bad guy. LOL. I'm going to keep hitting AJ Styles in the nuts. And you know what? I'm enjoying watching him hit AJ Styles in the nuts.
Remember how over the years we've heard guys like Randy Orton, Sheamus, they all went like, oh, we want to be heels again, right? You heard that over the years.
Uh-huh.
And, they turned Orton heel, and it never seemed to, like, it's not like Orton didn't really seem like over the moon about it. I mean, he seemed more comfortable. It was like, he wasn't like visibly showing more interest. It was kind of like the same Randy Orton in a way. And then Sheamus goes heel, and he looked like he was enjoying himself more, but it wasn't like an over the moon kind of thing. It's like, okay, business as usual, right? Shinsuke Nakamura, since they turned him heel, he was like a kid in a candy store.
He is very excited. It's because I don't think he ever got a real chance to do this, even in New Japan at the end, this King of Strong style artist kind of gimmick as a heel, because by the time he got to where he is now, this eccentric but amazingly talented, amazing charismatic guy, he was like an anti-hero, but he and Okada were getting the big face reactions in Japan.
Right.
So, and he was getting a face reaction everywhere else, even with with this gimmick. So it's the first time. I'd like to believe it's the first time he's really had a test run with this kind of character, which he's had for a while as a bad guy.
Right.
And he's excited, and you could tell he's visibly excited for it. And look, he keeps getting to hit AJ Styles in the dick. How is this a bad thing? He came out and demanded an apology for AJ Styles from the Greatest Royal Rumble. And AJ's like, you hit me in the dick. Why should I apologize to you? And Samoa Joe comes out, cuts this amazing promo, and Nakamura just grabs him. He's like, ah! And AJ Styles like, ah, you hit me right in my dick again. Ow, this hurts. I've never felt this much pain ever, except for those 50 other times you hit me in the dick. And that really hurts. Ow, I'm in so much pain. Please put my title down. Yeah, I know you're posing, but just hit me in the dick again, Shinsuke. It's not nice. Boom, phenomenal. That's AJ Styles right now. And Shinsuke's like, I have the title, and I just punched AJ in the dick. This is a great day.
That about sums it up.
That is a good summary. And by the way, the match on Sunday is now no disqualification. AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura.
Which says he's winning.
That being said, well, yeah, because Shinsuke is probably going to get him in the dick maybe once, maybe 3 times. There's an over-under on this thing, and I'm really hoping for the over.
Anyway, yeah, so not much going out either one of those shows. So the biggest highlight of the week for WWE, other than maybe last night's ride along with Braun Strowman and Alexa Bliss, which is great. The biggest highlight was the Greatest Royal Rumble on Friday.
If you want to call it that.
Yeah, I was about to say maybe not quite the highlight, although if you want to go, get talking about Braun Strowman, winning the Royal Rumble, which even that is kind of like, okay, the event was all right, like the whole match was all right, the Rumble match was great, but they gave Braun the eliminations record, they gave Daniel Bryan the Iron Man, and they're acting like this is rivaling the Royal Rumble. It shouldn't. It's a special event that's just there as essentially a glorified house show. Let's not act like it's the Royal Rumble. It doesn't. You're not getting a title match out of this. This isn't about WrestleMania. The stakes aren't nearly as high. Why are we pretending like they are? Because that's what it seemed like. Oh, you win a title and a trophy, and I mean, it was just, to me, it's like this. What's this be representative of what this is? I mean, I get why what they did with the other matches and why they built them up the way they did, because they didn't want to show that it really wasn't going to end up mattering. It's pretty abundantly clear that this was a glorified house show. And sorry, just my cord got stuck. It was a glorified house show that that they're making a ton of money off of, and they didn't want to present as a house show, and they try to make it matter more. Now people see through us. Now you know what to expect, because apparently they're going to go back there in the fall, and they're probably going to do this again next year because they're going to make it a traditional event. So you know what? It is what it is. But at the same time, I felt like even the best part of the show, which was that match, that main event match, the Royal Rumble, Greatest Royal Rumble, even that felt like, even though it was a great moment with Braun and Daniel Bryan, everything that happened, and some of the appearances, like it was a fun event. But why does it matter? And then, I mean, it's like, okay, we're presenting it in a way where we want it to matter, and we're going to act like it's a rival to the real Royal Rumble. But then in the end, you come out and feel like, okay, but what's the stakes? What's on the line here? You can't say it's like the Royal Rumble if there's nothing on the line. I still think they should have made this for a title shot at a future. Like this to me, this is what I would have done. Okay, since they really trying to make this into a big deal, and I know you got Money in the Bank coming up and all this other stuff. You know what you should have did? You should have said the winner of the Royal Rumble. Because what's the next biggest pay-per-view of the year other than WrestleMania? SummerSlam, right?
Mm-hmm.
Why not make the winner of the Royal Rumble get a title shot at SummerSlam?
Wouldn't that be something worth watching?
Then we have a main event. We're like, okay, who's going to get that title shot? And then who do they go after? That would have been great. Then you got incentive. What's the incentive to this? Oh, wow, they get a trophy and they get a belt that I'm going to see. Like, who cares?
Apparently, Braun was supposed to bring the belt on Raw, but I don't know if he did.
I didn't see. I saw the trophy. I didn't see the belt.
You mean the trophy that from a certain angle looked like a giant schlong in between two legs?
We said it was an equal opportunity offender. I mean, look what they did with the women's trophy at Mania. So,
and they did.
Yeah, and they did. But yeah, I mean, yeah, was it great to see Braun do what he did? Was it great to see Daniel Bryan do it? Yeah, it was great. But what does it matter? I mean, that's my whole point. Now, the rest of the card, everything went according to plan. All the results are what we thought they were going to be. I told you at this point.
Yeah, I mean, they had a chance to make it special, but they went the glorified house show route. In fact, they went less than a glorified house show route because at Madison Square Garden they run a title change.
Right.
They ran the U.S. title change between Owens and AJ.
Right.
But here they didn't even try.
I mean, there was some great matches. The Rollins match, the Intercontinental Championship match was great. That was great. We had, Bray and Matt Hardy, Broken Matt Hardy get their moment, which we all knew was coming.
The bars on SmackDown feeding the New Day.
I mean, most of the matches were fine, but I don't understand the AJ Nakamura thing other than Vince getting cold feet and being like, well, nobody outside Saudi Arabia cares. So let's not run this title change. Let's just run a no contest to further build the feud. And then the Brock versus Roman Reigns. Yeah, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say about that. They ran a double count out. And AJ got punched in the balls. So
basically, status quo.
Yeah.
And we've seen that game before. And by the way, this is not usually these kind of things happen. We've read about it over the years. These things happen when Vince is not liking the crowd reactions. You've heard this before, where it's like, I don't like the way the crowd's reacting, so we're going to overrule the title change. We're going to keep the title on whoever has it.
Which is ironic because they had one of the biggest crowds they're going to be in front of all year. And yes, it is a very controversial show.
Mm-hmm.
There's no women. Certain people weren't allowed to really go on the trip, Sami Zayn. So, you got paid $10 million to have a show in a backwards country. And we're the only women in the arena. And by the way, there was a package last night where they tried to get as many women as they can in the package. Yeah, there was no women in the arena, other than the ones who had to be chaperoned by their husband or father.
Mm.
If you are a single woman in Saudi Arabia and you wanted to see that show, you were shit out of luck. WWE keeps saying they want to be at the forefront of the change. Finn Balor didn't wear his LGBT gear. He didn't have the shirt. He didn't have the trunks. Although, God bless Finn, he covered it up well, saying that it's in the laundry. And you know what? I believe that. I believe it's in the laundry. But they didn't really promote the shirt. He had the shirt on Monday, though, but he didn't have the shirt at Saudi Arabia. I can't say they blame him because they're a theocracy. They receive gays and lesbians and transgender individuals and queer individuals there well. So, WWE wants to be at the forefront of the change, but let's face it, they were there because they took the upwards of $10 million to run a big show in Jeddah, and they're going to do it again. It was a glorified house show. Vince McMahon complained about the crowd reception. I don't know why. You knew what you're going to get into. The people in the very front row who are going to be some of the members of the elite were too busy on their phone on camera. It was an embarrassing show.
And the thing is, the crowd was hot for some things. Like the crowd would have been hot for Roman winning the damn match.
Technically, Roman won the damn match.
Right, but you know what gets me is they finally had a crowd that would have been okay, at least okay with Roman winning, and he didn't do it. Even though he technically did, but you know what I mean? And I said this last week when we previewed it. I said I didn't think Roman was going to come out with the title, and he didn't.
I thought Roman was going to win the title maybe 2 weeks before it happened.
Yeah, same here. I thought, as soon as they made the match, I thought so.
As soon as they made the match, it's like, he's going to win the title in Jeddah, all right? And then once they get there, they have cold feet. Oh, we don't like the crowd. Well, you have 70,000 people or 50,000 people or how many fucking thousand people that were in that crowd. And you weren't going to have a better reception for Roman Reigns. And you got cold feet. You didn't pull the trigger. And what does that mean, Brian? We're in year 5 of the Roman Reigns coronation tour.
And here's the thing, okay? We know it's not happening at Backlash, which we'll talk about in a minute. We got Money in the Bank, which will they do another match? Now, here's the problem with doing another match. We've done a steel cage match. All right, we've seen fatal 4-way, we've seen multi-guy match, we've seen all this. How many opportunities can you conceivably give Roman Reigns?
I don't know.
Now I know that they're going to say they have the easy way out of it, like, oh wow, he technically won. Let's give him one more chance, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I know that's probably what they're going to do. But how does this make like this whole trajectory they have had Roman on since WrestleMania is weird.
Mm-hmm.
He's coming out like a whiner every week, and he doesn't even look like he's that. I mean, he mentioned, "Oh, I want the title," but he's much more consumed with, well, Brock's not here. Well, everybody already knows that Brock's not here. Are we gonna continue to beat that dead horse?
We were very surprised that Paul Heyman showed up in Jeddah. We were more surprised that Brock Lesnar himself showed up in Jeddah to defend the title. So that's a win in WWE. That Brock actually showed up.
I mean, I got why before WrestleMania, I got why they used that in the bill, because they were trying to get Roman over. Oh, he's here, and Brock isn't. We've seen them play that game before with Cena and The Rock. I get it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, but as soon as he lost at Mania, really, we're going to keep going with this? The guy, Samoa Joe made the point. Guy came in here, whether he's a full-timer, part-timer or not, he beat you. He beat you again. So, I mean, what do you, I mean, and they still gave him another title shot, and he lost, and even though you can make the argument that he won the match, the decision didn't go his way. Mm-hmm. So, where are you going with this? This is, you can't persist in continuing this stupidity. You can't. So I just don't know what the point of this all is. And again, it wasn't a bad match. They do have chemistry together. Their matches are always a spectacle, but I mean, it's starting to wear off now. It really is.
Either run the title change or go with somebody else, because
you can't keep
at this point. Yeah. At this point, you're holding literal guys back, like 90% of the roster.
You know,
most of the upper card needs a title run, and that's a stranglehold being held by Brock and Roman.
I read an interesting theory today, and I want to know what you think about this, because this came from one of our fans. I never even thought about it. It makes a lot of sense. Remember how I told you yesterday that there's talk that Brock's going to defend the title at Money in the Bank next month? Yeah. And you wonder, like, wow, obviously they look at Money in the Bank as a big show. We've known that for the last couple of years. But they, they don't really need Brock Lesnar to sell that pay-per-view. The Money in the Bank match to sell that pay-per-view. So they could get away with not using Brock for that pay-per-view.
And they have in the past, yes.
And they have in the past. But so why are they using Brock that night? And everybody's like, well, and of course there's been all these theories like, oh, maybe they want Brock to pass CM Punk, whatever. There's a lot of different theories, right? But then there's this theory that, maybe it's just that Brock does not want to. Maybe Brock's pushing to not drop it to Roman Reigns, right?
Yep.
And we knew that back at 31, that's the reason why they did the Rollins cash in, was because it's a way to get Brock away from the title without being pinned, and it's not dropping it to Roman Reigns. So here's the theory that I read today from one of our fans. Money in the Bank. Whoever wins it for Raw. The main event's Roman versus Brock. They cash in, triple threat, pin Roman. Title goes to the person that won Money in the Bank.
Yeah.
Can't you see that coming?
It's WrestleMania 31 all over again. It gets Brock away from the title, which is essential at this point.
It resets Roman. You can continue to have Roman in main event after main event chasing the title, and it's refreshed, and I think people will be more interested in it because it's not Roman and Brock again. It's over with. Yeah. I didn't register to me as soon as I read that yesterday about Brock potentially defending at Money in the Bank, but as soon as I read that theory, I'm like, I can see that happening.
Well, I mean, it could happen in Money in the Bank or it could happen at SummerSlam, but it definitely could happen.
Right. They could say, you know what, we're not going to run Brock at Money in the Bank. We're running at SummerSlam, and they run the cash in there. Either way, it sounds like they can redo that same 31 result like they did again.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm starting to think that's what they're going to do. They're not going to have Roman take it off Brock directly. They're going to run some kind of finish like that, and then if they want to go back to Roman Brock down the road and then finally have the coronation, they can do it then because they've already botched it for this time around. So third time's the charm.
This would be the third time with Brock, right?
Yeah, if they do it at Mania again, it'll be the third time. And there are some people that say they might do it again next year.
For the title?
Yeah. Because it won't be the main event. So they might...
It shouldn't have been the main event this year.
No, it shouldn't have been. I mean, again, I don't know. I'm just saying that there is some people, insiders saying that they might do that again because they just didn't like the way Roman went into WrestleMania against Brock Lesnar. Well, and get this, and some of the things that I'm reading about, okay, and I'll just bring this up and then we'll move on. But some of the things that I'm reading about say that the reason why they think that Roman was hindered, of course, we all know how Vince feels about Roman and how some people feel about Roman, and they refuse to give up on him. One of the things I heard was, well, they feel like if the Shield reunion had worked out and Ambrose had never gotten hurt, that Roman would have gone in with more momentum and been okay. That wouldn't have made a difference. They were still booing him.
Yeah.
They didn't boo him when he was with Ambrose and Rollins attacked people, but as soon as you took Roman away from them, they still booed him.
Yeah.
I mean, the only way that you could make sure that Roman wasn't going to get booed is if you Freebird rule the Universal title and put it on all three of them.
It's an easy way to get around it, actually.
That would have been the only way you could have done it. I just don't get that. It's like there's always a reason why. This didn't work out. Oh, that had to be why. Or this didn't work out. Right? There's always a reason why it doesn't work out. How about this? He's just not over. Turn him heel. Let the crowd turn him eventually. The thing is, if you're here for even Dave Meltzer's been saying it. If you turned him heel 3 years ago, by now he might have been cheered.
Maybe.
I mean, the crowd might have turned him at some point.
Well, I mean, the crowd chose their favorite. The crowd chose their next hero other than Daniel Bryan, and
it's Braun Strowman.
It's Braun Strowman. Like the crowd when we watched Raw last night, Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn, who were the two biggest reactions of last night. Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. There was a 6-man tag. It was Team Owens, Zayn, and Jinder Mahal, who got little to no reaction, versus Roman Reigns, Bobby Lashley, and Braun Strowman. Roman got booed. Bobby Lashley got no reaction. And the only other guy got cheered, which was Braun Strowman. Strowman pinned Kevin Owens. If it were anybody else, they would have been booed out of the building. But Braun Strowman got cheered. He got to get these hands chant. God, they have created the next big thing. They have created the next big top face for the company. And Braun Strowman, of all people. Braun Strowman has done so many crazy, awesome things these last 2 years. It's like the only thing he hasn't done really is win the world title. It's the only thing he hasn't done. And the moment Braun Strowman wins the world title, people will go nuts. It's time. At some point, you got to get off the Roman train. Braun could win Money in the Bank. He could be that third man. He could pin Roman. All I'm saying is you created the next big face. And you have the next big thing, and you're refusing to pull the trigger because you're so committed to the one guy who can never get over as a face. It's kind of like Greg Gagne in the AWA. A little bit. You have Hulk Hogan as the most over guy, but Vern Gagne was so committed to Nick Bockwinkel and Greg Gagne, his son, who was not as charismatic. He was so committed to the plan, he let Hulk Hogan go to WWE after Rocky 3 when Hulk Hogan was the biggest star in professional wrestling. Hulk Hogan was a phenomenon. And everything Vern Gagne tried failed.
Mm-hmm.
I can tell you right now, if WCW was still a thing, they would woo Braun Strowman right over to WCW, and they'd put him right to the top of the card. That's how it is. Braun Strowman's the biggest thing you got. You're not taking advantage of it. I'm not saying that, pun intended, I guess, but
yeah. And I told you yesterday that a lot of people internally think that he's their next Hulk Hogan.
Yeah.
They see the charisma and the crossover potential and all they could do with him. And yeah, they see him as the next Hulk Hogan. And so you got to utilize him now. And I just don't understand it. Like, Vince used to be all about, like, and here's the thing, Vince, if you read the articles that recently where Braun's talked about his character, he gives a lot of credit to Vince McMahon for being so hands-on with him. If Vince is disinvested in Braun Strowman, why aren't we pulled the trigger yet? Normally in the past, Vince is investing in you like that. He pulls the trigger. I mean, there's nothing else for Braun Strowman to do at this point. There really isn't.
He's wrestling Owens and Zayn at Backlash with Bobby Lashley.
Yeah, he's got nothing to do. It's ridiculous. It really is ridiculous. But whatever. So the Greatest Royal Rumble wasn't the best event. And now we have another event this Sunday, Backlash, which again, figures to be an interesting event, not a huge event, but an interesting event. Now, we're going to quickly preview the matches very quickly because there's not really a lot we can say. A lot of these, again, first actual pay-per-view, because Greatest Royal Rumble wasn't an actual pay-per-view, although it had a lot of burn-off with the matches. But, what do you call it? This is an actual it's a cross-brand pay-per-view, but it's like a burn-off pay-per-view. You know what I mean? We're burning off WrestleMania matches still. So that always happens with that pay-per-view after WrestleMania. So not a whole lot going on here. So as we look at this here, we're going to go quickly again. I don't think they've announced a kickoff match, but they figure there will be one. So let's start with the match that Mike just brought up, which is Braun Strowman and Bobby Lashley versus Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn. Mike, you can do that one.
99% sure Braun Strowman and Bobby Lashley are going to win this match.
Yeah.
I don't have any explanation. It's just that's my thought.
I'm going to be quick with this match, too. This match is designed to get these guys in the car. Braun Strowman's going to win. First of all, it's Bobby Lashley's first pay-per-view match, but I've seen some people say that they might use this opportunity to set up a feud between Strowman and Lashley. I don't think they will. I think they're just on the card together just for the hell of it. Braun's team's going to win this match, so nothing else you can say about it. Just a way to get him on the card. They'll have some fun with it. Next up, we got Daniel Bryan versus Big Cass. This match is a test for Big Cass. You saw him eliminate Daniel Bryan in the Greatest Royal Rumble. I think he's only been back a couple weeks. They're giving him a Daniel Bryan. It's like AJ Styles. They use these certain guys as benchmarks to see where they're at and to see what they can give. And Big Cass is getting a chance to sink or swim on his own because he was in the middle of a singles push before he got hurt, and it wasn't a great one, but it was in the middle of one. This is his chance to sink or swim on his own because they see potential in him. I'm interested in this match because it's contrasting styles, big guy versus small. A lot of potential in it. My belief is that I don't know if they'll run a finish here. Only because I think they're going to want to see how people respond to Big Cass as a heel here. I could see them running some kind of finish where Cass looks like a total badass with Daniel Bryan, like he just starts, destroying him outside the ring, and they call the match just to see how he gets over. So I'm going to say no finish here, and just Daniel Bryan wins by count out or disqualification, and Cass just kind of wrecks him. Mike?
Yeah, I mean, I would have a hard time seeing a decisive match, a finish here too.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think it's going to be a DQ. I think Daniel Bryan wins by disqualification, and since Big Cass scrambling, yes, this is a big test for Cass. It's also Daniel Bryan's first pay-per-view singles match since returning.
Right.
So there's a lot of pressure here.
Right.
These guys to deliver, and I think they're going to be fine. But
it's interesting though. It's an interesting match.
Yeah, it very much is.
Yeah. All right. Next up, we have Intercontinental Champion Seth Rollins versus The Miz. Mike?
Seth Rollins retains the title here. Moving on.
Yeah, we've seen this match before. We saw. I could believe Finn Balor beating Rollins last night, and then that would have made this a triple threat again, which is why I didn't think it would happen. But I could have believed it a little bit more. Miz isn't winning here. He's on SmackDown. They'll have a fun little match. He won't get as much time as Finn Balor and him did, but they'll have a fun little match. Seth Rollins retains. Easy as pie. United States Champion Jeff Hardy versus Randy Orton. Yeah, this match will be interesting because it's been a while. And I'm interested in seeing these guys in the dynamic because obviously it's two veterans. And they'll get some time, but I would suspect – I don't think they're going to give Randy Orton the title back. They gave it to him just to say they did. I would suspect Jeff Hardy's going to win here only because it gets Jeff Hardy over. I think they're going to have Jeff Hardy look credible here so he can put somebody over. I think that's what they're trying to do, put it over like a big heel or something. So, yeah, it'll get some time, but yeah, I think Jeff Hardy's going to retain here. There's no reason to put the title back on Randy Orton. Mike?
Jeff Hardy is one of Randy Orton's favorite kind of matches.
Yeah.
Always has been. They've worked a lot together, and it feels fresh because they haven't wrestled in a long time. So it's interesting. But that being said, I think Jeff Hardy retains here. There's really no reason.
Yeah.
To put the title back on Randy Orton. There's really no need for this feud to extend past this match either. Considering Money in the Bank's coming up, and you're going to want some guys available. Yeah. Whether you're doing one match or two, and I don't know, they might be. I feel like they could do two matches, but I digress.
And you figured Jeff Hardy would be in one, so.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, Jeff Hardy is going to retain the title.
All right. Next up, we have Raw Women's Champion Nia Jax versus Alexa Bliss. Mike?
Why am I getting all the really short ones? Nia Jax retains the title, not even close. I'm surprised they're letting Alexa Bliss wrestle this match.
Actually, a lot
of must have. I'm surprised she got cleared, but all right. Alexa Bliss is wrestling. Nia's winning.
A lot of these matches are short because a lot of them are just burn-off matches, essentially, or filler matches. It's kind of like a filler pay-per-view, really, if you think about it, because of everything that happened last week. It was filler, too, but they're just kind of trying to get by here, I think. Yeah, Nia Jax retaining. You know what? I'm going to be honest with you. It's going to be interesting to see where they place this match on the card and how long somebody – because it's only going to be a 3-hour event. I read that. It's only going to be 3 hours. It's like a normal pay-per-view, right, for the first time in a long time. So I'm going to be really interested in seeing how long some of these matches – because if some of these other matches run a little longer, I could see this match not even happening. I could see Alexa just going out there and just, or – like something like a DQ thing or so. I could see this match because, again, we know Alexa's been out and not really wrestling. And I don't know if she's – I mean, I think she's been cleared and I think she can go, but at the same time, I'm not entirely sure. So I could see them running something where even if she's cleared, like some kind of short match or something where, I don't know, they kind of get by and then they do the match again at the next pay-per-view. I don't know. But either way, Nia Jax is going to retain. It won't be much of a match if they do get it. SmackDown Women's Champion Carmella versus Charlotte Flair. So I'm perplexed by this one because I don't know. I can't imagine them taking off Carmella here. So I think they're going to want to at least go another month to see where she's at because she's only had a couple weeks. And, you haven't given her one defense because they weren't allowed to have a match last Friday. So I would think Carmella wins here by some kind of screw job, DQ, or or something, some kind of dusty finish kind of thing. Won't be a long match because I don't think she can really do too much. She's on a mission to prove herself, so we'll see what she does. But she's been going off on some people on Twitter, but I don't expect much from it. Again, I think she'll retain, but not clean. And we'll see where they're at next month because next month could be when they take the title off of her, especially with Money in the Bank. But yeah, Carmella's going to retain here somehow. Mike?
I think it's going to be like a DQ or count-out finish. I think Carmella's just going to walk away.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think Carmella's going to just walk away, and you're not going to really get a finish here. So, she's going to retain the title, but she probably won't win the match, which makes sense because Charlotte's got all the momentum in the world right now.
Right.
And I don't want to take away from that, but at that point, Carmella just has the title, so you want to kind of work with that for a minute or two. She might get a token defense on SmackDown against like Becky Lynch or somebody, but that'll be it. Because the moment it gets close to SummerSlam, Charlotte is taking the title back. Because I'm about 85% certain the SummerSlam match is Asuka versus Charlotte for the women's title.
Yeah. They're saving that one for the big ones. Especially with the rave reviews they got from WrestleMania. So, yeah, and by the way, I mentioned that they might run some kind of weird fit thing with Nia Jax and Alexa Bliss, like one of them walks away, or not one walks away, like Alexa walks away or DQ or something. They run something like that in that match. They won't run it in both women's matches, so we'll see which one they run it in. But they might. I mean, both matches will probably have some.
I think Bliss is just going to eat the pin.
Well, maybe just to get her out of the feud. I guess they could. I don't know. I just can't see that feud ending right now. I think they're going to extend it another month. So, however they can do that, I can see them doing in that match. But next up, we have This match should be the main event, but I don't think it's going to be because they're content. They seem content to put Roman in the main event, even though it's non-title. But WWE Champion AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura in a no disqualification match. Mike?
I thought they were going to give Nakamura the title at Greatest Royal Rumble. And they probably should have. I think this is they absolutely have to pull the trigger on Nakamura here. It's kind of like, you remember when Randy Orton had all that heat going into WrestleMania?
Yeah.
He won the Royal Rumble and he had the big angle.
Yes.
And then he ate the pin at WrestleMania against Triple H.
Yes.
And it kind of deflated almost all of his momentum until that Backlash match where he won the title.
Yes.
And then they kind of got some of it back.
Yes.
That's this situation right now. Nakamura had all the momentum. The heel turn kind of gave it more momentum. You didn't pull the trigger at Greatest Royal Rumble, so if you don't pull the trigger at Backlash, Nakamura is dead in the water. He is absolutely dead in the water. Much like if Randy Orton didn't win that match at that Backlash that year, he was dead in the water. This is it. Nakamura, there is no excuses. It's no DQ. Even if AJ wins, it's no DQ. But that's not what they've been building towards. They've been building towards Nakamura taking it by crook. Fist to dick, knee to face. That's what they've been building on. So if Nakamura doesn't win here, they're never going to do something with Shinsuke Nakamura. Period. Because that's it.
Yeah,
He's
correct.
his moment. He might be a heel. He might have this banger of a theme, but he's dead in the water.
Yeah,
His momentum is all gone. It has to be Shinsuke Nakamura here with the win at Backlash.
right.
And he's going to do it dirty. And he has to do it dirty. But this is it. Nakamura to win the title. Period.
Yeah, and some people are arguing this is why this match won't be the main event because it'll be a no disqualification. The heel is going to win, even though Roman being the main event and winning will be not a great ending either. But yeah, this will be a great match. But I think that, especially with the no DQ stipulation, Shinsuke Nakamura is winning this match. He's got to win this match. I was convinced that I was convinced he was going to win last Friday, but then once I heard that they were making it basically a filler event, then I like, okay, he'll just win it at the next pay-per-view. And I think that's when he's going to win it. The stipulation, the fact that he needs this, and the fact that they're probably going to want this feud to continue. Nakamura is going to win this, no doubt about it. We'll see where they go from here because these two have great chemistry. I just haven't seen them have that magical match yet, but at least in WWE anyway. All right, then we got Roman Reigns and Samoa Joe. I'm going to be quick. This will be a great match. It'll be fun. I wish I could say Joe's going to win. He's not going to win. They have to give Reigns a win, unless they're really content to give Roman Reigns some long, year-long winning streak, which would build into their redemption angle that they might be going with. Who knows? But I don't see it. I think even Cena during his redemption on the way to beating The Rock had wins that year. Reigns is going to win this match. It'll be good, man. It'll be a good match. He'll get booed out of the building, but Reigns is going to win this match over Samoa Joe. Mike?
I feel like Samoa Joe probably will win this match over Roman Reigns. But because I think that's what they're building towards, like Joe kind of getting the win. If this match happens earlier in the night, Joe probably wins. That being said, I'm picking Roman Reigns to win this match because I'm not stupid.
Fair enough. Fair enough. All right, so that's the pay-per-view. Now, again, they will probably add a kickoff match, but we don't know what it is yet. I mean, it'll be an okay pay-per-view. It's a B-level pay-per-view. It's mostly filler, but there'll be some significant developments. We'll see how they go. We'll talk about them next week. So, the next pay-per-view will be Money in the Bank, and that's obviously a much more significant pay-per-view, and we'll have a lot to do with that. And we'll probably do an all-wrestling show for that so that, we can get some more time in on that. Or if we have time, we can do an all-wrestling show. I don't know if we will or not, but we'll see. But yeah, so that's all right. So that's all the wrestling stuff. We got through everything there. Now let's jump to sports, and we're going to talk. First, we're going to talk NBA playoffs. Then we'll do the MLB stuff. Again, it won't be a long segment. We don't do wrong segments with these previews stuff. In baseball, we don't really do wrong previews anyway. But NBA. So things. We're now officially in the second round. Things have kind of, we've kind of transitioned. I said that by the time we get on the air next time, we'd be in the second round. We are. So there's been some significance. Obviously, I said, we all kind of knew what the West was going to look like last week when we last talked. We kind of had an idea where we're at there. We knew the Pelicans had advanced and dominated Portland. They were very impressive, much like the Sixers were impressive. Both those teams most impressive in the first round, in my mind. So you had that. And then you had, obviously Golden State dominating the Spurs and everything that was going on there. And then Oklahoma City, losing to the Jazz, which has opened up a whole can of worms with Carmelo Anthony. We'll talk about all that stuff in the offseason. It's not the time to do that now during the playoffs. We'll talk about the teams that are still playing. So the West was set pretty much by the time when we last talked. The East was still in play. Toronto survived their test. Boston survived their test. Cleveland got dragged out of the first round by LeBron James and his impressive first series performance. And we talked about the Sixers and how great they were, how impressive they were. So those teams all made it out. And that gives you an interesting second round, which, to be honest, hasn't started off like I thought it would. First of all, Golden State destroyed the Pelicans in Game 1 to the point where you wondered if you're watching the same Pelicans team. You even had Alvin Gentry question his team, saying it was one of the worst performances they had all year. It was a terrible performance by them. Golden State just dominated. And now Stephen Curry apparently coming back tonight. Right now, New Orleans up 14-11 early in that game. So we'll see what happens with Curry and how he impacts. I don't know why they're bringing Curry back. They're up 1-0. They dominated New Orleans in the first game, and they're at home. I would have not brought Stephen Curry back unless you're tied 1-1 and you're going on the road. There's no need to play him at this point. There's no reason to mess with what you had in game one. I know the Pelicans were that bad in game one, but I still wouldn't have messed with it until you need to have Curry. If you lost this game, then you might feel like you need Curry, but you didn't. There was no reason to use him yet, so I would have just waited one more game and see what happened. But I digress. So you have that. As I look at the matchups here, I'm sorry, I'm just trying to match this. Look at this. I'm trying to pull up the East stuff, and it's not pulling up for me. So yeah. Now tonight you have Cleveland and Toronto starting. Right now you have a great game right now between Cleveland and Toronto. That's in overtime. Toronto had a lead, and they blew that lead, and now they're in overtime. And right now, I think I'm trying to see if it's a final. See if Cleveland has beaten Toronto in overtime. I'm going to look it up right now because for some reason I'm going to look at my phone. See where we're at here. Because it's not loading on my app, on my computer. Yes, Cleveland comes back in Toronto to beat the Raptors 113-112 in overtime. Actually, I take that back. It's 0.3 left in the game, or 14.7. Which one is it? Okay, so that's why my app didn't have it, because there's something going on. It said 0.3, and now it says 14.7. I don't know which one it is. So, okay, well, I'll update you. But as far as the news I have right here, it's 14.7 left in the game, and it's 113-112 Cleveland. So Cavaliers, that is a significant development for the Cavaliers to win game one on the road after everything that they've been through. That would be huge for them. Even if they lose game two, we should be going home with a win in their back pocket. That's a huge development for them if they can win that game. So we'll see if that game goes final soon. The other series you have is Boston and the Sixers. The Celtics off to a great start, 117-101 in game one. Dominant performance there. Tatum, Rozier, and Horford were great. The Sixers just didn't play well. That's really what it was. There was a lot of talk about the Boston fans and how that might have gotten in Philly's head there because they're young. I don't think so. I think from what I've seen of the Sixers this year, they're very much battle tested. They're very mentally tough. I just think they didn't play well. And they got to win game two. If they don't win game two, I mean, yeah, they could win both games in Philly, but I don't think that's going to be enough. You gotta get a game in Boston. You gotta. Obviously, you gotta get probably two, because I think Boston's going to probably win a game in Philly. So, yeah, you gotta get game two. It's imperative, and that was an entertaining game one. Even though Boston dominated, you saw a lot of potential in this series of what could happen. And again, game one here, that game has gone foul. Cleveland beats Toronto in overtime, 113-112. Cleveland now leads that series 1-0. So Toronto, which had done so well, is the 1 seed, and they had left Cleveland in their rearview mirror, are still being haunted by them, and Cleveland gets a huge game one victory, which really is something that they needed. To play out in front is so huge for them. It might help them here, and we'll see what they do in game two here with the lineup, because they've been playing with some lineups. But this is huge for them to be able to play this series from out in front and knowing that they're going to go home with at least a game in their pocket. That's a huge development. And, LeBron's been great. He's having one of the best periods of his career. And this Cleveland team is not a championship team, and he's essentially dragging them game by game. He's the reason they're winning. We've said a lot of things about LeBron over the years, and how he's always won with help and us. He don't have help, and he's winning. He is winning games by himself. So this is huge. And we'll see how far this goes, because this is a big deal right now. What he's doing, I mean, if you never watch basketball and people want to say, there's probably a lot of young people out there like, well, um, how did it? How was it when Michael Jordan played? How was it when, um, Kobe Bryant in his prime and everything else. Now, I don't want to compare LeBron because I know that happens all the time. Jordan and Kobe and everything. He's his own guy now. And look, we've said a lot of things about him over the years, like I said. But I think the truth is we've come to respect him far more now, I think. I have, at least. There's still some things about him I don't necessarily like. But, I think I look at him a lot more favorably than I once did. So, yeah, but anyway. Sorry, I lost the screen there for a second. But yeah, anyway, but what he's done in this first series is huge. I know it's only the first round, but it was against a good team. Because Indiana wasn't a bad team at all. We'll see what they do. If he can bring them through, if he can get them through this Toronto series, they're going to the finals. Because Boston is injury depleted. Boston ain't going to beat them if that's who they get. Now, the Sixers, I think, could beat them. I really do think the Sixers could beat them. I don't think Boston could. I know Boston, many people's eyes, is a better team, but I don't think Boston could beat them. I think the Sixers could. So, but we'll see. So these NBA playoffs, the second round, so far are not nearly as competitive, although this Cleveland-Toronto series off to a really good start. A great game there. But Golden State's been dominant so far. Boston's been dominant so far. Let's see. What's the other series I'm trying to think of? Oh, Houston hasn't got... I don't think Houston started yet, have they? Yeah, they have started. Yeah, Houston and Utah. I haven't talked about that series. Yeah, Houston and Utah. Rockets lead that series 1-0. Houston beat the Jazz 110-96 in game 1. Yeah, Houston's been dominant. So really, the only series so far that's had gotten off to at least a competitive start is the Cleveland-Toronto series. And that really figures to be the best series. I'm going to be honest. I think Houston's going to probably beat the Jazz in 5, 6 tops. If the Pelicans don't win tonight, I think that the Warriors will knock them out in 5. I like the Pelicans a lot, but they didn't even look like the same team. If they don't play well here, then I just don't think they're going to do it. Maybe this is that they own Portland. It was a good matchup. Who knows? But they just look so good, and now they don't. But if they don't win tonight, I think that series is over in 5s. Celtics, Sixers. I think the 2 East series will probably end up being the best series. I think Celtics, Sixers will probably go at least 6, and I think Toronto, Cleveland could go 7 if you play your cards right. And look how good the game was tonight. So that could end up being the best series because you've seen how good their series have been in the past. So, yeah, the NBA playoffs so far, second round, not off to as good of a competitive start. It's still interesting. It's just the first round treated us to a lot of competitive basketball so far early on in the second round. Not a whole lot, but right now you got Cleveland, Golden State, Houston, and Boston all up 1 game apiece. And then again, we'll see what happens tonight. Whereas you got game 2 with New Orleans and Golden State, and we'll see what happens there. So, Mike, your thoughts on the NBA playoffs?
I'm going to be very, very quick with this because I wasn't quick with wrestling. I want to be honest with you. Cleveland had no business being in the second round. LeBron James literally dragged the rest of the Cavaliers kicking and screaming into the second round. And then LeBron James dragged them kicking and screaming, and they took game 1 in overtime at Toronto. So Cleveland already has a huge advantage of the series. Toronto's obviously the 1 seed in the East, so they have home court advantage. 1 game on the road is huge for them, huge. So that's good news. Cavaliers are up 1 game on Toronto, so that could go either way. I agree with you. This game is make or break for New Orleans. If the Pelicans don't beat Golden State tonight, then it's hard to see them getting a win. Utah and Houston has some potential. to be a rather interesting series. Depends on which Utah team shows up. As for Philadelphia and Boston, Boston lost all of their best players to injury. Some of their best players to injury. Even the hero that they had, what's his name? I can't remember his name. Rozier.
Yeah. Yep.
Rozier. He was injured last game. So he'll probably come back for game 2. But they then behind Al Horford, they kind of came back and just clawed away and beat Philadelphia. So Philadelphia is a young team. They have to rebound from that. And that might be a little difficult for them, even though it's only game 1. It's only game 1 in Philadelphia. So there's a lot of basketball left to be played, but you would think that Boston being outgunned and taking game 1 will hurt Philadelphia's young psyche as a team, so to speak. So it's hard to say. So
Yeah.
the next game could be also make it or break it for that young Sixers team. But yeah, I mean, the first round was it happened. It was interesting. There were lots of developments. And I'm gonna be honest with you. Again, Cleveland has no business being in the second round. But here they are and up game 1.
Yeah.
Milwaukee was up on Boston. Milwaukee was up big on Boston. They let the lead go. So here we are.
Yeah.
So very interesting stuff happening in the NBA. Kind of come back and because now they have to go to Cleveland and get a game there. And LeBron James is there in this postseason right now. If he had a better team around him, the Cavaliers might be one of the favorites, and they still are. They still are to an extent. But
can you imagine this though? If let's say they do get out of the series with Toronto, like I said, if they get Boston in the next round, I think they'll beat Boston because Boston's injury depleted, and I just don't think the matchup works in their favor. Like Philly would work against Cavs, I think.
yeah.
If they get Boston, they win. Can you imagine if LeBron James drags this Cleveland team to the finals? Even if they don't win, that's an accomplishment.
His value would never be higher.
I mean, that's a huge. Now, and again, the concern you have here, and I've heard that a lot of people around LeBron are really worried that this is taking years off his career at the end here because the workload is excessive. What he's doing.
Yeah.
At this stage in his career, it is excessive, and we saw what happened to Kobe when he had to do these kind of things later on in his career, and how the next few years were rough for him. I mean, so it does worry you a little bit. But right now, look, the best way that Cleveland's going to win these games is by LeBron James putting up 30 to 40 points a game.
Mm-hmm.
It's just what they have to do. If Kevin Love's not going to show up and Tristan Thompson's just going to waste space in the paint. Who's your other options here? Once in a while, you get Hill to do some things and Nance to do some things, but realistically, they need LeBron James to score 30 or 40 points. It's just the way it is. They lost their second option. Like when they had Kyrie Irving, that was another option to score 20.
Mm-hmm.
It's the bottom line. But we'll see how it goes. But that was a big win for Cleveland tonight because they were down. That was a huge win in Toronto for Cleveland. Huge. Because it makes a huge difference for a lot of those guys that are around LeBron if they don't have the pressure of being behind the series. It makes a huge difference. You can do more things with the lineups and screw around a little bit and see what you can do. All right, so I just want to touch on the NBA stuff real quick. A lot of people asked me over the last couple of days about the NFL draft. I don't have anything to say. Everything went about what I thought it would, so I'm just going to leave it at that. Enough people talked about that. Kentucky Derby's this weekend. No thoughts. I don't have any ideas on who's going to win or anything. I haven't really paid attention to it, but I heard it's figures to be almost wide open. But last thing we got to do is we got a little bit of a baseball preview here. And I'm not going to talk about what's going on in baseball over the last week. We're not going to do that. We're just going to kind of give a general overview like we've done with all the other sports and even what we did last week with summer movie in the entertainment realm is just kind of overview this. And again, we put it off because it was a hard month. And that's really the storyline so far in baseball was the rough weather and all the rainouts and all the cancellations. And really, it impacted a lot of teams. Some teams got off to bad starts exclusively because of it. It's bad. It's bad weather. People like to, when they think cold, and they think rainy and damp. You know what they think? They think that it hurts hitters more than it hurts pitchers too. I think it hurts hitters more, but it hurts pitchers too. It's hard to grip the baseball, and rain out. Sometimes you lose a pitcher, and it hurts both sides. It just hurts. I think it hurts hitters more. And you saw it like in some guys like Yankees, the Cubs, where their offenses got off to slower starts because of the weather and not being able to find the rhythm because you'd play a couple games and all of a sudden you'd have a rain out for a day or two, So a lot of teams are going to be backed up with rainouts. And the whole point of starting the season so early this year was to avoid the season, was to give more days off in the schedule and try to rest players. Well, you lost that because now you got so many rainouts, you backed up some of these teams. The other big storyline this year, in addition to the rough weather, and the weather's getting better now, and you're seeing with the weather heating up, some of these teams offensively are coming alive, like the Yankees, the Cubs, the even I won't say the Giants, but the Rockies a little bit. The Indians. I could go on, but the other big story is tanking. We've seen this in other sports, but in baseball, we all talked about how slow the offseason was, and some free agents never even got signed. And one of the criticisms was that a lot of teams are just going to tank because they want to do what the Astros have done, what the Cubs have done, what the Yankees have done, rebuild their teams, through the draft and everything, and not worry about free agency and payrolls being excessive. And it's led to a lot of agents and such, and the players union being upset about this and wanting change because they feel like teams are hurting. Again, they're not signing guys because they want to tank. Well, and look, teams are tanking. Let's be honest here; they are tanking. I don't know if they're doing it intentionally, but some teams are already out of it. I didn't think Baltimore would be out of it. They're out of it. They're not going to come back. They're 8-20. Not when the Toronto Blue Jays look like they're going to be at least a little bit better than we thought, and the Yankees and the Red Sox are doing what they're doing. Tampa Bay was never expected to be good. We all thought they were going to tank, and they're doing a little bit better than they expected. They're 13-15, but they ain't going to win this year. So you look in the AL East, Tampa and Baltimore, you already take out of the mix. The Central, look, Minnesota's fallen off. I think Minnesota could recover enough to get in the mix, but Detroit ain't going to be any good. The White Sox ain't going to be any good. The Royals ain't going to be any good. So it's really going to be Cleveland and Minnesota. And if Minnesota don't turn this around quick, they might be out of it. The West is interesting. Oakland's played better than expected, but I think they're going to fall off eventually. Texas is terrible. The Angels are on hard time, but they'll probably turn on. So you're looking at in the West, the Astros. I think the Mariners are not going to stick. I think they'll fall off eventually. I don't believe them at 16-11. But the Angels and the Astros will probably stick around. So if you look at the American League, Yankees, Red Sox, I think Toronto will stick around long enough. Minnesota, Cleveland, Houston, and LA are the only teams that I think are really teams to kind of look at and say they're legitimate contenders. And I'm not just, and I know we usually wait to the All-Star break to say that because usually there's a couple of surprise teams and something usually. Toronto, I think, is going to be the surprise team because everybody thought they'd fall off, and they haven't. At least not so far, but I think they're playing good baseball. So I honestly think right now we can kind of see who the contenders are. And I think that's going to stay forth through the whole year because in the AL because, again, a lot of these teams are tanking, or a lot of these teams I've already proven they're just not capable of winning. They're poorly constructed rosters, either because of economics or because they just didn't have it. They just couldn't get these guys signed. And you look in the NL, it's the same thing. The Miami Marlins we know are tanking. The Reds we know are tanking. The Padres are tanking. Now, the rest of these teams, the Dodgers have gotten off to a bad start. The Nationals have gotten off to a bad start. So, excuse me. Will they turn it around? I would say they probably will. Now, on the flip side, will teams like the Phillies and the Braves and the Giants stay around? Not really sure. Depends how, I tend to think the Phillies and the Braves are a little bit are not quite ready yet. So I'm not quite sure that those teams will stick around, but I can believe the Giants sticking around because they're only again last year's their only bad year. The Rockies we know will stick around. They've been competitive. The Diamondbacks have off to a fantastic start. The Cubs are off to an okay start. The Central has actually turned out to be pretty good. Brewers were better last year. They're still in the mix. The Cardinals we know will be in the mix. The Pirates look like they're going to stay in the mix and be better. The big surprise in the National League has been the Mets at 17-10. Will that stick? Again, it depends on a lot of ways on what the Nationals do. I think the Braves and the Phillies will fall back. I don't know about the Nationals because we expect them to be better. I expect them to get better as they get healthy. They got a lot of injuries. That's another thing that you've heard. A lot of injuries, in some ways because of the weather, but that's impacted things too. But tanking's been a story, either intentionally tanking because you just didn't do anything to improve your roster, or just because your team's just poorly constructed, or because your team's just not good. I think parity is not going to be as plentiful this year. We over the last couple of years, we've gotten used to the idea that, with the second wild card, there's a lot of teams in it. I don't think there's going to be as many teams in it this year. If I look at this right now, because again, I expect the Braves and the Phillies to fall back. The Nationals, I think, will turn around. And I think that the Dodgers will turn around. So if you look at the National League, I think the Mets will stay in it. I think last year they just got hurt by injuries. I think the Nationals will be in it. Cubs, Brewers, Pirates, Cardinals.
Yeah.
Rockies, Dodgers will turn around, Diamondbacks, and maybe the Giants. So that gives you 10 in the National League. So I guess that's enough. But on the American League side, Boston, New York, Toronto, Cleveland, maybe Minnesota, I think they'll be okay, and then Houston and LA. That's 7. So 17 teams out of the bunch. 17. And I think last year, at this point, we were looking at maybe 24, 25 that could be in it. And then once we got to the All-Star break, I think we only took a few teams off of that. So I think that parity is going to take a hit here because a lot of teams are in a transition. Some are tanking intentionally. Some are just not doing so well this year because of injuries, because of the weather, maybe off to bad starts. A lot of things are going on. So, I think that there's a lot of things to take in here, and I think it's going to, again, there's a lot of factors that are going to affect these teams. They've already affected these teams, and I think that's going to, now, does that make for a less compelling season? I don't know. It depends on these storylines. It depends on these races. A lot of people are hyped about the Yankee-Red Sox rivalry being back. That helps. There's a little bit of a rivalry between the Yankees and Houston. That helps. The Mets being back in the mix, that's something interesting. The Cubs being back and looking more dominant is a storyline in and of itself. The Central being interesting could help. If the Dodgers turn around and the Giants stay in it, then Giants-Dodgers is always good to see. So it really just depends. But right now, we have tanking, whether it's intentional or not. We have teams not getting off to good starts, teams doing poorly. Again, whether it's because of circumstance or because they just went into the season going, we're just going to let it drop off and we're going to go into the draft next year and replenish ourselves. And tanking's been a big story in all the sports. A lot of people are just going, whether it's players' unions or fans or whatever. A lot of people hate it, obviously. But a lot of teams hate it. A lot of people hate it. A lot of fans hate it. A lot of the players' union hates it. A lot of people hate it, but it's not going to go away because again, this is the way that things are happening now. A lot more teams are investing in their farm systems or in younger players and not spending money and all that kind of stuff. So, things are different now in a lot of sports, especially in baseball now, where you don't have to spend a lot of money to win ball games. So, some of these things are compelling themes and storylines you're going to see continue to play out throughout the season. So now we get to that point as we look. I mentioned the standings and teams that I think are going to be competitive. How many teams I think are going to be in the mix? Some storylines, all that good stuff, and obviously storylines like things like injuries and the weather and everything will continue to play. But the weather seems to be getting better and changing, so I don't think we have a problem there. But injuries will always be a storyline. As we've said over the last couple of years, injuries are tending to happen more frequently, and not just in baseball, but in all sports. And we talked about why we think that and all that stuff. But so those storylines will always be there, and any other storylines will just develop over the course of the season, either because of rivalries or playoff races and all that kind of stuff. So we'll see how those end up develop over the course of the season and discuss them as we go along. So I mentioned teams that I think are going to be in it, but why don't I make some picks? Because you don't do an overview of the season for any sport and not make picks, whether they're just picks of who's going to win the World Series or a playoff series, or picks of who you think should be MVP and Cy Young. So let's start off with who I think is going to be MVP and Cy Young. National League. I'm trying to think of. I don't know, somebody for the Mets would be a. Let's see. Who do I think wins Cy Young in the National League? Bumgarner's out. You know what? I'm gonna cop out here, and I'm gonna say it could be a pitcher for the Mets. I don't know which one I want to pick though, because I could see it being a competition there. AL, I have a feeling that it could be Verlander or Kluber again. It could be any one of the Astros the way they're pitching, but I think it could be Verlander. I think it's a nice story too, the way he's been playing since he got there. So I could see it being Verlander or Kluber again for the AL. MVPs in the AL, you see what Didi Gregorius has done to start the season, but I think he's going to fall off a little bit. I think it's either going to be Judge or it's going to be Altuve again. I think it's going to be the same race that you saw last year, although I can see other Astros factoring into it, like Springer and Correa. I don't think it's going to be anybody else, though. In the NL, I think I want to say it could be somebody for the Diamondbacks. It could be Goldsmith. If Cespedes has a good year for the Mets, it could be him. If the Nationals get back in the mix, it could be Harper. Harper would be the favorite, especially the way he's playing. So I could be one of those guys. All right, so let's get to some team picks here. In the NL, this is what I'm predicting. Cubs win the Central. Now, I'm not just saying it because of the way things are going right now. I always said this at the beginning of the season. I think the Diamondbacks win the West. I like the Diamondbacks a lot. I like that before the season. They're off to a good start, so it validates me a little bit. I still think the Nationals are going to win the East. I think the Mets will get a wild card. And I think either the Rockies or the Dodgers will get the other wild card. A Central team could easily get it, but I think that the Rockies or the Dodgers are going to play better. So I take one of them as the other wild card. AL, I think the Yankees win the East. I think the Red Sox get one of the wild cards. Cleveland wins the Central. Astros win the West. And I'm going to say I think the Angels and the Twins will battle for that second wild card. I think the Angels will win it. And I think your ALCS will be Yankees and Red Sox. I think your NLCS will be Diamondbacks, and Mets. I think the Nationals get knocked out in the first one. They always get knocked out in the first one. I just don't trust them. I'm going to say if the Mets are in that series with their pitching, I think the Mets can advance. I'm going to go. Call me a homer if you want to. I'm going to go with an all New York World Series, Mets versus Yankees, and then Yankees in 6. I'm going to have some fun. People are going to say I'm being biased, but I'm going to have some fun with it. So, and I don't think I've ever made that prediction before. I don't think I have. I don't think I've ever picked a Subway Series for the World Series before. So let's have some fun. So again, we'll see how it goes. I think it'll be a good baseball season. I don't think there'll be as much parity because I think a lot of teams is going to be out of it early. Again, because of either tanking, whether they're trying to do it or not. Again, it's tanking. It's unintentional tanking. It's still tanking. I mean, if your team's so bad, you're just not doing well. It's kind of tanking. I guess tanking is too strong a word. It just means that you're not playing well and you're just not winning. But to me, I just say if a team's doing so poor that they're 8-20 like Baltimore, even though it's not because they're tanking on purpose, it's that they're not playing well. It still looks like tanking to me. But because they just didn't do enough to fix their pitching staff, so that to me is like, hey, you knew you had to fix your pitching staff. Why didn't you? But yeah, I think a lot more teams are going to be out of it this year. I don't think there's going to be as many teams involved. But doesn't mean it's not going to be any less compelling. I think there's going to be a lot of stuff, compelling storylines, a lot of good games, and a lot of stuff to watch, good races down the stretch. I think we'll have another good playoff. Last year's playoffs were great. The World Series was great. I think we'll have another repeat of that. I think there's a lot of good teams, a lot of big market teams, and a lot of good compelling storylines. There might not be as many teams in the mix, but it's still enough in the mix to make it interesting. And again, storylines, some of the storylines I already mentioned continue to play out. Others will develop. You have to watch what's going on with Matt Harvey with the Mets because that's been interesting. We'll see how that goes. He's clearly going to be on the outs with them, and he just hasn't been the same since this Tommy John surgery. This hasn't been the same. They move into the bullpen, and this thing's it's just not good. He's partying, and there's a lot of problems there. We'll see how that continues to develop here. He was the shining star, and all of a sudden he's fallen off. He's clearly going to go somewhere else after this year. Free agency, and Scott Boras is his agent. He's going to try to salvage his career. We'll see what happens to him. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with him. But boy, that situation's just become such a soap opera in a way. So that's a storyline to kind of keep an eye on too. So yeah, I know I kind of rushed through that, but again, there wasn't a whole lot to say. And when we do these overviews now, we don't tend to go too far with them. There's not a whole lot, and I'm kind of glad that we waited a month into the season to do it because we were able to see more games, and with the weather being what it was, you weren't able to get a gauge of these teams, and now you kind of look at these records and kind of get an idea of where these teams are and where they might be going, and that kind of thing. So there's just not much to say. Again, we covered the storylines, we made some picks and that kind of thing. So baseball is just not a lot you can discuss. It's not like college basketball. It's not like NFL and that. So, and that's not a knock on it because I like baseball better than football, but it's just the way it is. So that's your baseball preview. Not much, but hey, it's something to kind of go through the season with. And obviously, we'll make picks and predictions and discuss things as the season goes on. And at the end of the season, we'll make picks in the playoffs and all that good stuff. So, yeah, that's the baseball preview. Do I dare ask you, Mike, if you have any thoughts to contribute?
You're lucky I'm still awake right now. Let's move on.
Fair enough. All right, so with that being said, we've gotten through everything. And over these last couple of weeks, we had a lot of special stuff to get to. We had a movie preview, baseball preview, all that kind of stuff. We got through it all, so that's good. So that's it. As always, just because the show is over does not mean you have to stop interacting, contributing to the show. Continue to have your voice heard. You can email us, Facebook us, or tweet us your reactions, opinions on the show, things we discuss, comments, opinions, reactions, topic ideas, breaking news, items related to sports, entertainment, wrestling you want us to cover, questions about the show and the scheduling of the show. Any of these things you can do by email, Facebook, and Twitter. You can email us at itspotlight411@gmail.com. You can also follow us and tweet us at itspotlight411. Remember, hashtag itspotlight411 for anything you tweet regarding our show or anything you tweet directly at us. And, of course, you can find us on Facebook. Just search for In the Spotlight 411 on Facebook, and then make sure that you like our fan page once you're on it, once you find it. Again, Facebook and Twitter. Follow us on social media so you can get the latest information about the show, especially when it comes to scheduling. Any changes that we might make, also interacting with us. Any of these, you can do all that as long as you follow us on social media. So make sure you follow us on Facebook and Twitter. On Twitter at itspotlight411. On Facebook, search for In the Spotlight 411 on Facebook, and then make sure that you follow us on there. Again, follow us on Twitter as well. 2 ways to keep up with the show and look back at classic episodes. You can either stream us anytime on Google Plus and YouTube. Just search for In the Spotlight 411 on those sites, and when you do, you'll be taken to our show pages on both sites, where you can find every episode we ever produced for Google Plus and YouTube. That's every episode we ever streamed on Google Plus and YouTube. They're all available for you to look at or stream anytime. That's every episode from mid-October 2015, all up to tonight's current episode. Those episodes are available for you to stream anytime you want. Just check them out on Google Plus and YouTube, and just search for In the Spotlight 411. If streaming is not your thing, maybe prefer to listen to us or listen to us on the go, I just don't like seeing our faces. You like to listen to us, prefer it. Maybe when I listen to older episodes of the show. If any of that applies to you, check us out on our main host sites, Podbean and iTunes. Search In the Spotlight 411 on both those sites. When you do, you'll be taken to our show pages on both sites, where you'll find every episode we ever produced in the nearly 8 years we've been doing the show. So every episode from our original Blog Talk Radio run from October 2010 to January 2011. All our episodes from our Talk Show run from January 2011 all the way up to mid-October 2015. And, of course, all of our Google Plus and YouTube episodes mid-October 2015, all up to tonight's current episode. All episodes available in audio format for your convenience, including our Google Plus YouTube episodes are transferred into audio format for your convenience. All episodes in order from the most recent, that being tonight, all the way to the oldest, way back in October of 2010. Those episodes are available for you to listen to anytime you want. Maybe, again, you're a longtime fan. Let's check an episode from 3 or 4 years ago. Or a new fan wants to check out an episode that old for the first time, or catch up on current episodes or recent episodes, or just check an episode again just for the hell of it. If any of that applies, you can do all that and more on our main host sites, Podbean and iTunes. Just search for In the Spotlight 411. So again, Google Plus, YouTube, Podbean, and iTunes. Google Plus, YouTube, Podbean, iTunes. Your way to keep with the show and look back at classic episodes. Just search for In the Spotlight 411. Again, just search for In the Spotlight 411 on all of those sites. I want to thank Mike for being here tonight. Thank you, Mike.
I'm going to bed. Good night.
Fair enough. Thank myself and our great show, pat myself on the back, and thank all of you for your continued support and contributions to the show. Thank you so much for watching. Those that will be watching, listening to this later, thank you to you as well. That is it for this week. Again, we'll be doing this one show thing through the summer, so people have been asking me. That's what's going on. That is it for this week. Next show will be a week from tonight on Tuesday, May the 8th. At 9 o'clock from Eastern Time, broadcasting and streaming live here on YouTube. We'll cover the fallout from WWE Backlash and Raw and SmackDown. That'll be our wrestling stuff, sports, do NBA playoffs, any other sports headlines we have to cover, including MLB. And then on the entertainment side, box office beat, TV highlights. So it'll be a pretty average, normal show next week. But if there's something special, we'll add it. But I don't think we'll add it. I've been doing special stuff for the last couple of weeks. So that's the deal for next week. Again, thank you for bearing with me. I'm pretty exhausted tonight, but I got through it, so thank you for bearing with me. And look, we did the show up here. It was nice and clear. I mean, it's not my favorite place to do it, but it was nice and clear and maybe a little bit better quality, so there's that. But don't expect it to maybe make a habit out of it. So it was just for tonight, but anyway. So with that being said, that is it. Again, our next show 1 week from tonight, 9 o'clock from Eastern Time here on YouTube Live. That's next Tuesday, May the 8th. Until then, I hope you have a great rest of your week, a great weekend, and a great start to a week. Next week, we'll see you back here 1 week from tonight on May the 8th, 9 o'clock from Eastern Time here on YouTube. Until then, good night, everybody.